Once upon a time, a professional wrestling company in the midst of a national expansion paired up with a burgeoning cable TV network dedicated to the hip music trends of the day. And together, they changed the landscape of wrestling as we know it forever. This, however, is not that story. A lot of wrestling fans know about the link between WWE and MTV, how the war to settle the score helped pave the way for the massive success of the first WrestleMania. It's a relationship that carried on in some form or fashion for decades, like in the early seasons of Tough Enough or when they aired Sunday Night Heat. But tucked in the middle of that story is a brief run when WCW had a turn, a chance at exposure to one of their ideal audiences of wild and crazy kids with disposable incomes. So how did it work out? Let's take a look at World Championship Wrestling on MTV. Our story begins in the spring of 1998. One of the hottest feuds in WCW at the time was between Diamond Dallas Page and Raven over the US Championship. So popular was this feud, WCW found a chance to further the story on MTV.
About getting my microphone on. What about me? What about Raven?
Quote to Raven, nevermore.
Holy!
As the rivalry spilled through Spring Stampede and headed to a blow-off at Slamboree, MTV and WCW followed up with an idea for a full-fledged show, a fusion dance between bumping hits and bumping on the mat, the ultimate music video feud. The idea was there'd be a tournament of current musical acts, with a WCW star representing each musician. The winners of each match would help their musician advance until there was one grappler/artist left standing. The 3-hour event was to be broadcast live from Chelsea Pier in New York City, the equivalent of a pay-per-view, all for free on MTV. However, there was one thing that showrunners couldn't possibly count on in preparation for the event: springtime weather in New York. The skies were calm for several days, right up until the night before the show, when it rained and rained and rained some more. Along with all the wind and the fog, conditions were less than ideal for an afternoon of wrestling by bell time. Now, it's not great to produce television in the rain, but it can be done. And certainly an organization like MTV, what with its vast infrastructure and huge wealth of resources, could have found a way to prepare for something like this happening. Like, I don't know, looking at the 7-day forecast, or renting a tent of some kind of shelter for the ring. Something. Anything. By the time the show began, the space on the pier was a big, wet, gray soup. The area was made to hold 2,000 fans, but only about 100 people braved the elements to come watch the show, and that's a generous estimate, and it'd be incredible if more than half of them were still around by the end. And look at this total lack of aesthetic. No set, hardly any branding to speak of. The curtain for the wrestlers is literally a tarp. The announce team of Tony Schiavone, Larry Zbyszko, and MTV VJ Matt Pinfield are standing inside a picnic tent, and their monitors are covered with garbage bags. Is this WCW or your old neighbor's backyard show? To top it all off, the conditions were so shitty, none of the wrestlers wanted to actually work in the ring, which is probably a big reason MTV cut the show down from 3 hours to 2. Come on, this is MTV, one of the biggest cable networks in America, and WCW, a multi-million-dollar company. You're telling me between the two of them they were this unprepared for the rain? This was the end result? I mean, come on. Next you're going to tell me that the State Athletic Commission didn't even approve the event, or that some of the wrestlers weren't even licensed to wrestle in New York. Wonderful! Let's start the show! We begin with a team of High Voltage. How appropriate for a show that's been essentially rained out. Robbie Rage and Kenny Chaos are representing none other than Will Smith, which is weird. I can't think of anything in common between High Voltage and Will Smith.
Let me tell you something. Will Smith and High Voltage have a lot in common.
Oh, my mistake. Go on.
One thing is we're the king of the ring. The Fresh Prince, he's got it going on. We're all gonna get jiggy-wiggy, jiggy-wiggy, baby!
Yes, a lot in common there. We see the announce team for the first time. Pinfield seems to be the lead man of this trio, while Schiavone and Zbyszko, who look absolutely miserable, provide the color commentary. After High Voltage cut a promo you couldn't see or hear, out come Public Enemy, that's Johnny Grunge and Rocco Rock, representing LL Cool J.
Johnny gonna knock you out, and I'm gonna knock you out, and we're gonna knock you out!
This is the one and only actual match on the entire show, so drink it in, folks. It's madness right out the gate as both teams start brawling. A young Carson Daly is calling the action in the ring while hiding behind referee Nick Patrick. Then his mic is eventually cut so Tony and Larry can talk. This whole thing is a mess to watch, and on the wide shot you can see the roaming cameras are all in the ring, and each camera operator has a helper. There are almost as many guys in the ring as there are in the stands.
Two young guys that want to make a name for themselves, a reputation. Look at the way they slip.
In less than 2 minutes, Public Enemy win the match. Nice 3 count, Patrick. That means LL Cool J has advanced in the tournament. Well, it's a pretty silly concept, but you know what? I'm fairly open-minded. I'm sure it'll make more sense as we go along. Let's roll with it. Who do we have next?
Representing Run DMC, it's Barry Darso. Yeah!
The Lord's testing me today, folks. He really is. Forget how silly it was to hear High Voltage hyping up Will Smith, who came up with the rib of Barry Darso fighting for Run DMC. I know he's worn a lot of different hats in his career, but a black Kangol? Not likely. Then again, listen to this promo, and you tell me that he doesn't put 110% into whatever he's selling.
Because they're the greatest. They're the original. In fact, they created moves that everybody's trying to copy. I love them.
See? Maybe I'm wrong. Barry DMC will be facing off with a fully dressed Booker T, representing the rapper Cannabis. Pfft, good name there, real edgy. Ooh, what's next? A rapper named Adderall? You know it's too wet to wrestle when there's a guy who's literally pushing water out of the ring. Now, instead of having any more matches on this wrestling show, the guys took turns cutting promos on behalf of the musicians they represented. Then the viewers at home would be encouraged to dial a 900 number to cast their vote for which artist they wanted to advance, with MTV charging 95 cents per call. Hey, if they make enough money off this, maybe they can afford an umbrella or two. So the wrestlers stand there, Carson reads out the very legitimate results of the polls, then the winning wrestler celebrates while the losing wrestler looks upset. Or in Barry's case, simply vanishes. Booker T wins.
What happened to Barry? Barry is done. He's gone for the day.
After a commercial break, we go to our roving ringside reporters, VJs Ananda and Jesse Camp. Oh man, I remember Jesse Camp. He was that weird guy who won that contest to become a VJ.
On your black leather, I don't even know, man. Kiss is the band. This rock and roll, rocking and rolling. Sing with me, sing for the year. 'Cause you're my woman, yeah.
Well, there's no accounting for taste amongst the MTV generation. Now we're back in the ring with Carson standing between Booker and both members of Public Enemy. What, is he gonna fight both of them? We see tournament brackets for the first time, and we also get a hype video explaining the real-life beef between LL Cool J and Cannabis at the time over a verse from LL's '97 album, Phenomenal.
So I told him, alright, I'll come down and change my verse. And he said, if you change your verse, I'll change mine.
He had recorded something before I got there when I arrived.
These graphics are amazing, by the way. So the wrestlers stand there and don't wrestle, the fans make their votes, and Cannabis wins again. Booker T has won 2 matches in a row without doing a single move.
Everybody is psyched, and I really think that sooner or later that Cannabis and LL Cool J should get to one of our pay-per-view events or Nitro on Mondays and get in the ring and settle this dispute.
We can easily arrange that.
We sure could. We arrange a lot of things.
Up next, a 6-string shootout as Van Halen, represented by Diamond Dallas Page, takes on Metallica, represented by Brad Armstrong and his cool airbrushed shirt. Let me just say, Van Halen being represented by a guy with the most Nirvana-ass sounding song in Page is pure poetry. Carson describes Van Halen as one of the beginning bands, whatever that means, and oh no, Brad has to cut a promo.
You darn right, you got Brad representing Metallica. Metallica rocks, Jack, and so does Bad Brad, you know what I'm saying?
Dallas Van Halen wins the popular vote. Brad jumps him on behalf of Metallica rocks, but eats a diamond cutter for his troubles. After the break, poor Tony is chilly and has a towel over his shoulders as they introduce the Macho Man Randy Savage. Randy isn't actually part of the tournament, but instead tries to sell Slamboree to the viewers. How's he getting ready for his match with Bret Hart?
Drinking adult beverages. What do you think about that?
It's time for the Battle of the Davids, Bowie versus Lee Roth. Fighting for Diamond Dave, it's Hugh Morris with his manager Jimmy Hart. And representing Ziggy Stardust, it's Sick Boy, who's dressed like a pile of laundry.
And I promise you, we got about 1 million hits between the both of us.
Mostly Bowie.
Now, David Bowie is one of the most original people in music.
Is he?
Yes, he is.
Well, humbly bibbly zibbly bop, David Lee Roth advances. But who cares, because we're about to see the greatest matchup in the whole tournament.
He always has an itch, and we have no idea where it comes from.
It's the Ultimo Dragon versus meth head variant Kidman, or as Carson calls him, Kidman. They're representing Salt and Peppa and Madonna respectively. Or is it the other way around? Or are they both representing Madonna?
Representing Madonna, it's Kidman. Actually, you know, I made a little mistake and I'd like to clear that up. Kidman is actually representing Salt and Peppa.
Now, Madonna, talk about Madonna. You're going to take on Salt and Pepper here in Kidman.
Yes. Salt and Pepper.
I'm representing Madonna, being that she's my ex-girlfriend and all. Vote for Madonna, my girlfriend.
Salt and Pepper, please.
Why do they book so many guys who can't talk for a show that required them to talk? Madonna wins the vote, which I think means that Dragon wins. Or maybe he doesn't. Who the hell knows at this point? Does anyone else need an Advil?
But the Ultimo Dragon won, I just don't think he realized it yet.
I don't think he did either.
We go back to the stands, where the fans are drowning out Ananda and Jesse with a free Ric Flair chant. I'm just glad they're having fun. Hugh and Jimmy re-enter the ring along with DDP and his wife Kimberly for our next matchup. That's right, it's David Lee Roth versus Van Halen, complete with a hype video about their beef over the years. Oh no, this tournament definitely isn't a work.
Van Halen, they did all their million-seller records, so vote for us!
Wait, how are they putting Just a Gigolo up against current Van Halen? Did Roth have nothing newer out there? Are we voting for better music videos or better artists? Or like, what is the criteria here? Van Halen is up, meaning Gary Cherone
wins again. I am here right now with the WCW announcers, Larry and Tony. Guys, what did you think of that one?
What do you mean, what do they think of that one? What was there to think about? Nothing happened.
Can he keep his main ability, his balance, in the ring under these slippery conditions?
They're not going to wrestle, Larry. Look, I know you're just bullshitting and trying to cover for this, but that doesn't make this any less insane. Oh, now here's a matchup that feels appropriate in this dreary weather. It's the Battle of Seattle, Pearl Jam versus Courtney Love. Glacier represents Pearl Jam, while Raven represents Love. Oh wait, you know what? I'm sorry, I messed that up. It's gotta be the other way around.
Representing Hole, it is none other than Raven.
Really, MTV? Really? Okay, let's think about this for a second, okay? You have this guy here, all right? This guy who looks suspiciously like this guy. I mean, this guy's finisher is literally called the Even Flow DDT. The Even Flow DDT, all right? And you have him representing Courtney Love? You guys have failed your audience.
Apparently, the only way to get on MTV is to either be a corporate rock puppet or to have to stand out in the rain like a ridiculous fool.
That's rich coming from a guy who works for a Turner-owned company. It's at this point where Raven assumes the interior monologue of everyone involved with this production, along with however many are watching at home.
Vote for Courtney Love, vote for Pearl Jam. I really don't care who you vote for. Wow, how lucky am I? We win. If I lose this round, I can leave now? So vote for Madonna.
We're back from break, and most of the fans, however few there were, have hightailed it. But damn it, our boys are still on the clock, and satellite time is expensive. The next semifinal match is Raven versus Dragon, aka Courtney versus Madonna. Raven wins, I guess, but who cares? Certainly not him.
They're both a bunch of whiny tramps. Who really cares who won?
In our other semifinal, Van Halen, that's DDP, smokes cannabis, that's Booker T. That means the finals are coming down to Diamond Dallas Halen and quote the whole Nevermore. DDP and Raven? You mean the two guys on this show who are actually feuding with each other? Two of the only people on the entire show who are booked for Slamboree made it to the finals? Huh, what are the odds? And look, here's some highlights of the last time they fought at Spring Stampede. Gosh, folks, don't you wish you had anything like this on the show today? But instead of Raven, out comes...
What's going on?
That's Kidman.
Apparently Raven decided to leave, so Kidman would take his place. In the end, Van Halen beat Courtney Love, or maybe it'd be Madonna in this case, making DDP the champion of this very strange tournament and the winner of this incredible championship belt. But surprise, out comes Raven after all with a sneak attack. The valiant DDP sees that coming as well and gets one up on Raven by hanging him, just like on Nitro the previous week. Kidman and Raven sell on the outside to a non-existent crowd as Carson Daly meekly signs off.
Ultimate Music Video Feud, Diamond Dallas Page and Van Halen, the winner. See you later. Thanks for watching WCW and MTV.
I don't know about you all, but I'm pretty excited for Slamboree next Sunday. I mean, if you're WCW, the wheels are at least still on the track, and you're still pretty competitive against the WWF. But this is nothing short of an abject failure. They didn't even air the replay that night like they originally advertised. It was a nice and easy payday for the boys, sure, but not at all what was planned to take place. I still can't believe that a network the size of MTV put something out as disorganized and unappealing as the Ultimate Music Video Feud and/or Bash. But miraculously, the partnership did not end there.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Rob Zombie, and welcome to MTV's SnowBrawl.
In February of '99, MTV ran their annual Snowed In week of programming, basically like their spring break programming, but in the mountains instead of on the beach. And it was here that WCW returned to the network with MTV's SnowBrawl. Emanating from the Snow Summit Mountain Resort in Big Bear, California, this show had everything, like production, a covered area, people, and look, 3 Nitro girls in the ring. Rob Zombie is your play-by-play man at ringside, joined by Jimmy Hart and Larry Zbyszko, and stuttering John from the Howard Stern Show is your ring announcer.
Our first wrestler stands 6 foot 2 inches, weighs 250 pounds, and would love to kick Marilyn Manson's ass. He has Sandra Bullock's home phone number and refuses to use it. On his way to the ring now is a man that would love to get his hands on those little Hanson kids.
Like the music video feud, this show only has one match, but at least this time it's on purpose. A 7-man battle royal to see who would claim the coveted SnowBrawl trophy. There was Conan, Kenny Chaos, Disco Inferno, Billy Kidman, now all cleaned up and rehabilitated since leaving the flock, Wrath, Booker T, still dressed in layers, and the NWO's Bryan Adams. Wow, seriously, WCW? I mean, come on, this is the big leagues here. It's MTV, major promotion, and Bryan Adams is the biggest NWO black and white star you could get? In fact, this whole thing is just a mid-Carter's delight. Some up-and-comers, but no household names. At least the show in New York had DDP and Randy Savage. What were the guys booking this show doing?
Drinking adult beverages.
And oh my goodness, check out the exquisite mullet on that referee. He doesn't need a hat to keep warm because that look is hot. The match begins with a shot fired from Rob's gun. The action is intense, and so's the new metal soundtrack.
Hey, how my wallet?
Look, Stevie. Oh, look, there's Conan against Bryan Adams. Got him up against the rope.
Yeah, this speaks to me. You can't tell me what to do, Dad.
Unlike the clunky presentation of the music video Bash, this special is much more straightforward. It's just a battle royal. In the end, we're down to Disco and Adams. It looks as if they're in cahoots, but psych, the Bryan Adams, who isn't a Canadian rock god, eliminates Disco by throwing him into a snowbank. Adams wins the cheap-looking trophy.
I want to thank all the little people out there, but most of all, I want to thank myself.
But the show ends on a positive note when K-Dog storms the ring in disguise and sends the NWO member packing, holding the prize high. First of all, bad sport. Second, was the disguise really necessary? I mean, you were already booked. Finally, in March that same year, it was time for MTV's infamous Spring Break Week in Cancun, Mexico. This time, WCW gave viewers the same recipe as before, just in a different bowl.
What's up, wrestling freaks of America? Welcome to MTV's BeachBrawl.
Kid Rock is your lead voice this time around, joined once again by Jimmy Hart and Raven. Talk about a wild blunt rotation. Also, after what happened in New York, I'll bet Raven was more than happy to receive this assignment.
They got to toss everybody out. It's last man standing, like that Bruce Willis movie. Of course, that thing didn't do any box office, but that thing sunk faster than the Titanic.
Yeah, this show is a lot like that movie that bombed, which is what I'm comparing this wrestling show to.
What about me? What about Raven? Ooh, yeah, more camera shots on me.
But according to the Mouth of the South, this ain't your grandpa's battle royal.
This is the first time we've had a match and a band performing at the same time, so it's gonna be nuts.
Rock and wrestling? Together? Nah, that'll never work. It's time to meet the competitors. For starters, here's Kidman again with his 3rd straight appearance, Hugh Morris, and unmasked Rey Mysterio Jr.
He's down with Pantera and would love to have Snoop Dogg as his tag team partner. That's kind of freaky.
I'm not entirely sure that is the best or most correct use of the word freaky, but then again, it is kind of freaky that would almost happen just a couple of years ago in Los Angeles. Then rounding out the group is Chavo Guerrero Jr., Perry Saturn, and Chris Jericho, who at this point has one foot out the door in WCW, yet he not only got to work a match in Cancun, he also got some mic time.
Go home and study your work and try and become just like me.
Before the match can begin, it's time for the rockin' tunes, thanks to our friends at Fear Factory.
Prepare for shock!
Finally, the brawl at the beach is underway. Since the live music is part of the spectacle, the commentary team has to keep quiet for long periods of time so the viewers can actually hear it. I can't begin to tell you how jealous I am of these assholes for having such an easy gig. Like on SnowBrawl, it's a pretty standard undercard battle royal featuring a game audience full of young drunks, easy peasy. There are some fun spots and the occasional crazy bump, and they use some pretty cool camera angles in this one. In the end, your paragon of virtue won the whole enchilada, only for Saturn to get his revenge at the end ahead of their big dog collar match at Uncensored. I wonder why this match never gets brought up in Jericho's big list of accolades. Also, how is it that earlier this year I decided, you know what, I'm not going to make October a rock-themed month, but in doing so, I seem to have accidentally created a Chris Jericho-themed month. How'd that happen? And that was the end of WCW's relationship with MTV. By the summer of that same year, the network went back to working with the WWF and did a whole week of themed programming to help promote that year's SummerSlam, but that's a subject for another video. Anyway, the SnowBrawl and BeachBrawl specials were obviously the cleanest pieces of WCW content, mostly due to the beauty of post-production and ideal weather conditions. They were simple concepts executed well, even if they were lacking in star power. The ultimate music video feud was terrible and boring, but it was also hilarious to see how one tiny variable caused the whole thing to fall apart. All in all, going back to revisit these MTV specials was a lot of fun. It was a moment in time, a loud and gritty 1-2 punch of late 90s nostalgia for an aging millennial such as myself, and still a lot more interesting than a never-ending marathon of ridiculousness. Have you seen or do you have any memories of these shows? What did you think about them? Let me know in the comments section below. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, hit that bell icon for all the notifications. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.